if we look under the garden section and on orchid, this actually was a friend's orchid, and there is not a consistent use. The fabric changes going around the edge, and the leaves come out into the edging. So it's there's not a separate binding as such.
I love it. Oh, it's really pretty. That's really cool. And I like the thick binding too.
It was very interesting. A husband and wife came to a show and wanted to choose the quilt. And the wife loved this one. And the husband liked another one. And it was because it was hard for him to accept that it didn't have the same fabric going all the way around the
That's
edge.
really interesting.
But it sits very happily. They're good friends, and it sits very happily in their house. I thought yes, I've got a picture of it in the detail, and then it sees the quilt installed. And
very cool. Well,
it's nice when I go there for dinner and get to visit it.
That's really nice. Now, and I love that it goes over it's like the leaves go over the binding, which is really beautiful.
Yes,
and really
over
cool.
the edging. Yes,
that's really cool.
And they're rather. They've got a sort of Japanese feel to those fabrics, and that the orchid isn't Japanese, but it's certainly an Oriental. Tropical plant, not a native New England plant, so it felt right. And I particularly, the fabric that I've used on the left-hand side and the left-hand part of the base has got that nice almost gold. Well, it's sort of a gold color in it, and that was particularly. I would have loved to have had a lot more of that fabric. That's one that I bought a lot of. I do use some non-quilting fabrics, other kinds of fabrics. I've got a fabric designer friend who's given fabric, and I've got others that are being samples and so on. Sometimes you get very interesting colors in household fabric as opposed to quilt fabrics. That gives lots of nice, texture for the background. So
now, I have two other questions for you. One are about shows, and then also about sort of being a professional and doing this. What is if people are listening, they're really pretty. What's the average price of these? Is there a sense of what people? I'm trying to understand the economy. Obviously, there is a lot of time that goes into this. So. And cost of fabrics. You're buying fabrics so that you have them, but I imagine there's that cost as well. How much? I don't know if you're willing. If you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But what if I want to buy one of these, how much would it cost?
Well, they certainly. I make them because I like making them. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and there's no point in having them. I know some people who've made dozens of beautiful, beautiful bed quilts, and they're all stored in, yes. cabins. They're not used.
Right.
There's no point in having them, stored under my bed,
Right.
So I'm very happy to sell them to people, and in fact what I usually have done is I have offered people the choice that they could write their check to a charter school that I co-founded.
Oh.
And so they can then claim it as a tax deduction because
right.
the school didn't give them anything. But it happens that they got a quote from me.
Right. So you're not doing this.
That's been something I've done a lot.
That's really cool. And you're not doing this to earn a living.
No. Yeah. No. I don't consider myself a professional quilter. I'm not. I'm in the Studio Quilt Association, but as a general member, not as a professional artist member. And so I've had quite a hiatus on making them for a while. Other things in life have been in the way. But I think that the orchid was probably $500, something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. Well, once we stop, I'll have to ask you how much once we stop. I have a question on one of them, but I won't. We'll do it after the recording is done. All right. So, why do you think you're not? What makes someone a professional? You just said that you weren't like professional. Why do you say that? Like, what's the difference between what you do and what, say, the next level of quilter or professional? What makes a professional, I guess?
Well, I think the professional quilters establish their reputation by entering either juried art shows or getting gallery representation. Very often they're also teaching. Very few people can make a living just doing the quilting. I mean, Ruth McDowell, until a couple of years ago, does the most magnificent quilts, and is in corporate collections, is very, very well known, has books, of course, as well. But she needed to teach, and she's now retired, so she is still making quilts, but she's retired from teaching. I think that, generally speaking, the professional quilters have to spend a great deal of time on marketing, on business, on establishing themselves with, with galleries or ways, or via teaching, reaching an audience, as opposed to people like me who make things for the pleasure of making them,
right.
And and the sale is very secondary for me. I'm just glad for somebody to have the piece.
It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that really does. It almost feels like the business side of it takes over, so that people are doing that as much, if not more, than the joy of why they started in the first place.
Yes. And of course, you can always, I mean, very often they say to you, don't turn your hobby into a business because you'll grow to hate it. Because you would end up having to do the things that people want to buy as opposed to what you want to make.
Now, do you
it's interesting. I got stuck a while ago because most of the art quilt world is very abstract, as is the regular art world. And I thought that I ought to be doing abstract work because, that was being a proper artist. And so I took some classes with other people, and we own a lot of abstract art. I visit a lot of abstract art, but it just stopped me in my tracks because it isn't me. And other artists are ones that say, oh no, it should be all free flowing, and you just put the fabric down and you start manipulating it and so on. And that's like pulling teeth for me. I mean, I'd rather have a root canal than do it. I cannot do that. For me, this process of very careful design and very meticulous planning and preparation, that suits me. And I had a very interesting experience of having my work in a local show at a professional quilter that I really value. This was an art quilt show? Yes, I think it was all quilts. but it was an art gallery. And a quilter I very, very much admire had 2 pieces in that I thought were magnificent. And some neighbors of mine I came to the show, and I took them over to see her work and say, look, it's absolutely fabulous. And there was a pause, and then the man said, yes, I can appreciate them. He said, they're very interesting, and I can see they're beautifully made. He said, but your quilts speak to my heart.
Oh,
and I thought, oh. And he said, yes, they really do. They bring me great joy. And so that was very interesting. So I thought, well, you're not trying to be a professional. You're retired. You've had your career. You're not interested in that. Just keep doing what you are doing instead of thinking that in order to be a proper quilt artist, you've got to be abstract.
That's really great. That's a great story. Tell me a little bit more about shows and what role shows play in art quilts and the difference between juried and unjuried shows. So
it's a very interesting question in the art quilt world because I had decided at some point that I needed to be juried into a major quilt show, and I made that a goal. And I was juried into one of the premier quilt shows in Paducah, and then realized that and then it was interesting, the comments that came back from that, which were all about technique as opposed to the overall piece.
Interesting.
Because it was a quilt show where they're big on, yes. The traditional quilt technique things. And there are obviously now a wide number of art quilt shows, particularly through, the SACA. But a whole lot of people now saying that they'd much rather submit their work into a regular art show that is not media specific.
Oh, interesting.
So that it's clear it's being judged as a piece of art, not this focus on how many stitches to the inch and other points pointed and so on and so forth.
Right.
And I was very happy to have one juried into an art show of that ilk, where mine was the only fabric piece in the show. I've forgotten what the overall subject was, but it may have had something to do with botanical or garden or something. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. What was the call for it? And similarly, other ones where recently I had some.
Just the Liechtenstein Center.
Yes.
Yeah. So it said outside in. I'm on your website, so I'm not super smart.
Yes. Yes. Outside in. Yes.
The art of the garden, which is perfect, yes. Right? That's.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great piece.
Yeah. And. Gosh, I haven't updated this in a long time. So they, I've had quite a few things in the Meeting House Gallery locally that, again, that are mostly works that are around a theme as opposed to, around a medium.
Do you think it was important? I don't know. Even though, was it important for your reputation or for you personally to have experienced doing the shows? Is that something that, you did it, you can do it if you want, not want, but did you feel like that was an important part of your development?
I would say it was, yes, it was a good affirmation. It was certainly a good affirmation to, two things: be invited to be the featured artist in the show in Vermont. It was an important one to have a one-person show in Sandersfield.